And we are live, baby. Got a lot of stuff going on over here at this time right now on my computer. So if it starts glitching out and get buggy, let me know so I can stop some things. I am in the process of um, exporting a video of a boat that I had the opportunity to take a look at today, which we'll talk about in a second, at Malone's Marine in Ironton. I'm now obviously, and I'm also uploading a video to YouTube right now that will be released tomorrow. If you have never used a Jackal chunk crawl, I'm going to tell you that you should go to Borders over there, and if Brad doesn't have them, you should buy some of them and have him order some. Or if you're local to Grayson or somebody like that, go out and check out TNT Outdoors. Have them order them for you. They are. I don't know that I'll ever pitch another bait that's not a Jackal chunk crawl because I have that much success with them, which is crazy. But with that being said, it's fine. So you put in the private chat that it is glitchy.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
glitching.
Is it fine now?
That did make it better.
All right. So let's get into it.
That's a life of a fisherman you wouldn't understand. Something you can't feel on dry land. Gotta get your arms way up in a cage and set the hook on smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. Gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a G that's trying to bet you like what you feel. Step on the deck, give it a whirl. Hello, welcome to my world.
All right. And we are live. Welcome back to another episode of On Another Line Live. We are in the process of got a lot of stuff coming up here recently, and we fished a couple tournaments. We fished Casting for Kids we talked about last week. I got out this past weekend. Got an update. Seems like it's always an update with the old Evan screwed. Dropped an injector this weekend, so my boat is out of commission again. So I'm kind of at a crossroads, and I'm really not like I'm trying to fix my boat at all costs. But right now, the issue with my boat is that Evinrude is no longer a business. We all know that. They're also are you can't get parts, and I dropped an injector, which means the injector's not working anymore. It has 6 injectors. The injectors, I replaced an injector on my boat 2 years ago. Fairly simplistic process. When I bought it, then it was $359. Bought it in Wheelersburg at up there at Freedom Outdoors. Kevin up there helped me buy it. Got the coefficient file, installed it. Everything's running good. This past weekend, I get out to Grayson. By the way, I absolutely had a day on Grayson, which we'll talk about in just a second. But it ran fine at Grayson, ran all the way around the lake forever. And I think what really killed it was on Sunday I went and fished Dewey with Lewis County Lunkers, and I ran around the lake, and all of a sudden it just didn't have any power. And the problem with that is that it happened before with JR and I, actually. Matter of fact, the very first time we ever fished together, I dropped an injector on my boat. And I had to fix it then, but it's done the same thing now. But I think really what probably clogged that injector up was the other day when I spun a hub, which you heard me talking about. It seems like every trip I'm going out on my boat, it gets crazy. Something else is going wrong with it. My boat is 18 years old. And the crossroads that I'm talking about is right now I don't have a boat payment. I've sunk $14,000 in my boat in the last year and a half for upgrades. New trolling motor, 2 Solix 15s, and a 12-inch Garmin with the LSV34 live scope system. And with that being said, I enjoy my boat. I like it. It handles big water well. Everything's good. I don't have a payment on it. Is it time to repower my boat? I assume that I would probably go with a Mercury 250 Pro XS, the 4-stroke. and they are not cheap. Everybody is gouging the crap out of prices right now with them because they're really hard to get. I guess Mercury's not producing enough of them, or kind of maybe they're trying to drive the price up. I don't know. But a new 250 Pro XS with a torque master lower and a stainless steel prop, you're looking at $23,000 to $25,000 rigged, which is crazy. And then, but on the other side of that thing, when you look at the bass fishing as a whole, if you buy a new boat, which JR just recently did and took a big dive into, you're $80,000+, $90,000. And if you're talking about the new Icon boat, which is the boat I got to look at Malone's Marine today, it's $104,000 without grafts. So you're looking at $115,000, $120,000.
That's a 20
and that's for a 20-footer, yeah. But I will tell you one thing, and I was a skeptic when I went down there. First off, I'm a high school teacher. Let's be a realist here. And I'm not telling you this because I'm going to buy one. I don't have the financial gain. I don't have the financial stability to be able to do that. Will I ever? Probably not. You guys need to get on watching my YouTube videos, like streaming it like crazy. But so I'm looking at this boat in a way that most of you guys out there are looking at it. And I looked at the boat thinking that this thing is way overpriced. 120 grand. How on earth can a bass boat that we fish and try to catch slimy green fish out of, how can this thing cost $120,000? And where does the market collapse? It has to. But when I went down there, and I went down there with that mentality, I was a hater. I was a skeptic. Like, there's no way a boat should be $120,000. And I went down there, and I went down there with an open mind, not in the market to buy a new boat, but just trying to see why they warrant the amount of money that they're asking for these boats. And some of the fit and finish details of this boat it's outlandish. Man, it's otherworldly. For example, one of the craziest things that I saw is that they obviously, I think I talked about it last week, but they have an AC unit that basically cools a water plate that is pressed up against the live well, and you could choose a water temperature on your touchscreen, and it will keep that temperature all year round. If it's 110 degrees outside, your water temperature could be 70. So that's going to be huge for keeping bass in live wells longer and getting them back into the lake, and having a better chance of survival. That delayed morbidity that we always talk about is kind of done away with. The trailer has lights going along the outer rails of it pointing up, and when you back your boat into the water, there's a float switch in the trailer that turns those lights on so you can see your trailer at night or early morning to put your boat on the trailer. The turn switches in the back of the boat that you normally turn all the power on with, you press one button in the front on the console, and those automatically turn on for you. It has a G-juice or whatever other additive you put in your live well dispenser. You put it in a tank in the back, and you press a button on the touch screen, and it squirts that G-juice in your live well for you. You also get a replica die-cast model of your boat when you spend $120,000.
I think it comes with a nude picture of Jacob Wheeler too.
That's optional. You got to pay extra for that. Let's see. Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, so like it is crazy. Like, and I'm not going to bore you guys to death with it. I am much in the same respect as Jeff Wallace is. They should, they should do a lot of these things for $120,000. And again, I agree with that. Now, going into this, you have to understand is that I am making this video because, as you can see on the very bottom of the screen, Malone's Marine is one of the major sponsors for our channel. That's where JR bought his boat from. But my goal when I went down there and shot this video was to try to I wanted to really find out why they are asking over $100,000 for these boats. A couple of things that I saw stand out in the build of the boats is that most other boat companies, matter of fact, all boat companies, as far as I know, in the bass boat world, they do a fiberglass mat and a fiberglass resin, and they roll on. They put the mat on there, and then they roll that resin on, and they build the boat basically from the gel coat out. The Icon boat is like they make it almost similar to carbon fiber, where they like vacuum this boat and then inject the resin in it so it gets more saturated with that resin, so there's no bubbles, no tight spots, or no air spots, something's going to break like that. They have some kind of crazy IK stringers in them that run vertically with the boat as far as like bow to stern, that allows a crazy amount of space. Like the rod locker on the passenger side will hold a 9.5 foot rod. It'll hold up to 45 rods. The center compartment of the boat will hold, they claim, 50 3,700 Plano boxes. But in that video that you guys are going to see tomorrow, I get in the center console, like the center compartment, like I am in it. Shut the door on myself. That's how big it is. Like when I stood up in it, it's like waist deep to me. It's crazy, like all the stuff that they've done. Now, again, the reason I made the video is that I want to help Chris promote his business, and I want to help him sell boats. That the more boats we can help him sell, the more willing he's going to be to help us out in the future. And that's what it's all about, guys. Sponsorship is all about, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And that's why I'm making the video. But I was really intrigued with the video, with the boat, to try to figure out why it's warranted that much money. But you will see in that video when it comes out tomorrow that there's a lot of fit and finish details that they're doing that nobody else does. Like they have 6 powered USB ports that are all over the boat. Most tournaments right now, especially if you're talking about higher end tournaments like Toyota Series and stuff like that, you have to have a GoPro running on your boat at all times. So this gives you the opportunity to power that stuff. It has a wireless charger for your phone in the wireless caddy that's down there by your feet. Like, it goes, I could go on all night about this boat. And it's a boat that I'll never be able to own. But, maybe some of you guys out there that have made a little bit better financial decisions and are not a high school teacher, you could afford one, and I could see why it is. But now, enough of that. You guys will see them, and we will get out there and talk about some fishing now. So this weekend, I went to Grayson Lake, and I have a love-hate relationship with Grayson. I actually like fishing Grayson. I do. It's less pressured until the freaking pleasure boat community gets out there and there's 1,000 boats on the lake and everybody's trying to ski, and wave boats or wake boats are everywhere, and like you can't get away from them. It doesn't matter where you're at. But I enjoy fishing there. Normally in the springtime, you have an absolute chance of catching an absolute hammer. I'm talking like I've seen 8+ pounders come out of there. They're few and far between, but there's still some in there. Yatesville is my favorite place to fish, but it's been getting pounded lately. We had the 160 boat casting for kids tournament last weekend, or weekend before last. They had the Massey tournament this past weekend. They had, I'm sure the bait shop tournament probably didn't happen this weekend, but it did. It's been a couple weeks. But, this has been getting pounded, so I wanted to kind of go somewhere where it was, less pressured. I went out with zero expectations. I put my boat in the water in the Bruin ramp, Bruin. And I do that because I'm a cheapskate. I hate paying the $5 ramp fee for the main ramp, so I just put in at Bruin. It's a little bit longer walk down over the bank, but I'm fat. I need some exercise. So went down there. I immediately started fishing. Started throwing a white, bone white Head and Spook Junior, and I have literally, this is the worst year I've ever had for the spook. Like, I've caught a lot of fish on it, and they're usually big fish, or at least keeper size. But I threw it for a better part of an hour that yesterday or Saturday morning. Overcast, raining. It should have been an absolute perfect morning for it. I got a couple blow-ups on it. They were missing it. So I put it down, and what happened was I threw the spook, missed the fish, followed it up with a chunk crawl because that's what I had on the bank or on the boat at the time, and caught that fish. And I literally never put that chunk crawl down all day. I had one of the best days I've ever had at Grayson in my life. I've caught, I've never caught that many fish that were quality size. And it was weird. Like, I know the fish this time of year are bedding, but these fish were not locked on beds. I would see them cruising down the bank. And normally, if they're on a bed, they'll cruise down the bank and they'll come back. They're guarding that area. Well, these fish that I was catching, I could watch them swim along with my boat. I would see them just continually swimming, and I would throw that chunk crawl right in front of them. And I'm telling you what, every time it hit the water, they were freaking munching it. I would watch them. Water was gin clear. They'd go right over through there, just hammer that thing, set the hook, and in the boat they came. It was an awesome deal.
Yeah, we went camping this weekend. I'm looking forward to doing some fishing, but I'm going to go up to Lake Erie next week. So I'm really excited about that. Going to go to Presque Isle Bay and finally get my smallmouth fix. I'll probably be at Presque Isle next week. And then I'll probably fish there 3 or 4 days. And then, of course, make it out to the fishing mecca, in my opinion, of St. Clair, June, July.
What's up, Tony? How you doing, buddy? Yeah, man, Bruin Ramp is really good. I like it, especially when the water is at summer pool, so you can actually use those the little courtesy dock or whatever. Really like it. Guys, first off, Tony Forestier is a buddy of mine, lives in my area. This dude has one of the most decked out kayaks that you're ever going to see. I got a power pole on this thing, one of the Talon, like the little, I can't remember what they're called, but the anchors that power pole makes for the kayak. It's pretty amazing, man. He does a really good job. So Tony, I appreciate you joining in. But so this weekend was crazy. Again, I don't want to spend any more money on my boat, but is there a point where you're just throwing good money at bad faith? And what I mean by that is that my boat is 18 years old. My motor is 18 years old. And everybody on the planet, when I bought that boat, they were like, oh my God, you bought an Evinrude E-Tech. Those are the most unreliable motors on the planet. And then you hear people saying, oh my God, I love Evinrude E-Techs. Like there's 2 different camps. And I'm kind of like I'm straddling the fence of this thing now because it gets decent fuel mileage. It runs fairly good. It pushes my big 21-foot boat fairly well with the right pitch prop and me in it and half a tank of fuel. It's a 75-mile-an-hour boat. But, over the I've owned it since 2016. It was 10 years old when I bought it. And over the last, I guess, 8 years that I've owned the boat, I put a $1,900 EMM in it because it wasn't charging my battery. So when you start the battery, there is a magneto or something that charges the battery for you while you're running. That goes without saying. That's most engines. Well, mine, the EMM, the electronic motor module, it's water cooled. It has a water jacket that runs through and cools this electronics. So it doesn't take a rocket surgeon to figure out that water cooling electronics doesn't probably work all that well. So what happens is that mud and stuff gets clogged up in this EMM, causes parts of this EMM to burn out. And that's exactly what mine did. It would run just fine. Like you could start it if you charge the battery, it would run just fine. When you turn it off, you're running your live wells all day or whatever, you would turn it off and then it wouldn't start back, after a while because the battery was dead. It wasn't charging. So that was $1,900. That was the very first thing I ever had happen to it. Fast forward a year, and I have, I've kind of, fast forward a year from that, and I put a new injector in it. That was when JR and I was out. Actually, that was 2 years after that. So I didn't have any problems for like 2 years, and then we were out just randomly, dropped an injector. And then everything, I put an injector on it. It was a fairly simplistic process. I have the software to do it. Normally, you have to take it to a dealer. It's $500 to $1,000 to get it installed, etc. Kevin down there, that he helped me out, gave me the coefficient file that I needed. I have the software and the cable. I'm a computer engineer, so I figured all that stuff out. We got it going. My cousin Josh and I got this thing running, and it ran just fine up until 2 years later. Misty and I are out fishing, and we are at Grayson, and I hit a rock under the water or a log or something, which is, that's boating. Jacked up my lower unit. $5,700 later, thankful for State Farm insurance on that deal. $5,700 later, I get a brand new lower unit put on my boat. Everything's fine. Everything's good. Hunky dory. Everything's good. Fast forward till February of this year, Misty and I are down at Falls Lake in North Carolina. I am an idiot running in shallow water. Didn't know it was that shallow. Hit some rocks, jacked up my lower unit again, bent the prop shaft. That was all on me. I'll take 100% responsibility for that. And I had about $1,200 in getting that fixed recently, and now I have an injector that's out on my boat, which is going to cost me at the very least $350. I found a company in Texas called Injector RX, I think is what it is, and down in Texas, and they will take. So I have to take the injectors off, which is no big deal. I'll number them because just to give you guys an idea how this works is that when you put an injector in this Evinrude, and I'm sure this is like a lot of different boats, but this injector has been like benchmarked at Evinrude or whatever the place that builds these fuel injectors. And they have a coefficient file which gets loaded into the EMM, which tells the EMM how much fuel should be sent to that one injector to keep them all at the same level. Well, that coefficient file can only be given to you by an Evinrude dealer. So that's where that rolls into. But this place down in Texas claims that if I take my injectors off and send them to them for $55 an injector, they will clean them thoroughly, ultrasonically clean them, pressure test them, flow test them, and send them back to me. And if they're unable to recover they claim that the injectors just stop working because they get so clogged up that they just stopped working. Like it's still trying to pump fuel, it just can't. So they see very rarely do they see ones that actually just stop working. So I said if they couldn't recover it, they wouldn't charge me for that one. So I think that's the way I'm going to go. I'm going to send them all down there, get them all cleaned. Hopefully they can recover that one, and I'll be back on the water for $355. And if that does not work, I'm going to be out $355 or $300 because it won't be $55 for the other one. But I will be out that money. Plus, I'll have to find an injector for my boat, which is going to be $350 plus. I think that they're going to be way more expensive than that because they're not made anymore. They're going to be back ordered everywhere. If you find one, it's going to be double the price, $600+. Do I bite the bullet and have a boat payment to put a new Merc on there, or do I just try to keep piecemealing this thing back together? I don't know.
I think at minimum new engine, personally.
I don't know. It's like, I was going to talk to Chris today and he was busy, but I mean, you're looking at $25,000. That's kind of scary, Corey. So I will tell you,
like mercury is just so widespread, and when that happens, that's when people cut corners. And I always wondered, if the SHO is better, or I know a lot of people are starting to use Suzuki, so it's kind of interesting, really. I always wondered why Honda had one.
How what?
I always wondered why Honda never got into this race. I mean, they have so many engines; they're really talented. Obviously,
they have an outboard.
Yeah, but like a popular one, Actually, I think my father-in-law's fish and ski is a Honda because he's a mechanical engineer and he loves Honda. But
so that's going back to the Suzuki comment. Most people see that Suzuki name and think, "Oh no, it's built, overseas, built in in Asia somewhere, and they're right. But I have a 1973 Honda CB754 motorcycle. My dad bought it when I was in 8th grade, and it was a funny story because his wife at the time told him that he couldn't have a motorcycle. She told him, or he told her, that she couldn't have a cat. She comes home with a cat one day, and he immediately goes out and buys a motorcycle. So I have this motorcycle, but it's 50 years old. It's 51 years old now. This dude, like, it still runs like a top. I can go out there and start it up right now. I could ride it as a daily driver. I could take this thing anywhere I wanted to go in the world, and it would get me there and back. It's crazy. Quick, kind of prelude, or kind of like off bar here, and then we'll get to your comment there, Hinkle. In 1970 or 1969, when you bought a CB 754 from the showroom, there was 2 vehicles on the planet that had disc brakes on the front of it. One of those was a Honda CB 754. The other one was a Boeing 747. Way far beyond their time. Hinkle, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, if you're around my area here in Southern Ohio, Northern Kentucky, they are definitely still on the bed. I saw fish locked on the bed at down in Dewey, which is down around Prestonsburg. I saw fish. The fish that I caught, and so I was talking to Marty, who is a really good fisherman there, and he brought up something that I'd never really thought about, but every fish I caught this weekend was that way, and it's got to be true. I mean, because maybe it's not, but he made a very good point, and I think it is true based on my experience. Every fish I caught, including those in the casting for kids tournament, I never once felt a bite. That's that thump that you normally feel. I have some of the most sensitive rods on the planet. Like, I don't buy NRX Plus because they're expensive and they look cool. Like, they are absolutely the most sensitive rods on the planet. That, and I love Shimano Poison Adrena. They're super sensitive. So you can normally feel a fish bite it. But the last 3 weeks fishing, I have yet to feel a keeper bite. It's just when I pick up on it, it's like a sponge, man. And you set the hook and there's a fish on there. And he said the other day, he's like, you can always tell when a fish is guarding a nest is if the bite gets really spongy. And like, it happened to me all 3 weeks. But the water temperature, I can tell you right now, at Dewey Lake when I was there last Sunday was 72, 73 degrees. So I figure that these bass are they have to be on the tail end of spawning there. You're going to get some stragglers. All the big giants, I think, are probably already off the bed. So, I mean, you have the opportunity to still catch one and find one on the bed. But I couldn't really tell you how much longer.
Honestly, the fishing gets so much better after they spawn. So I'm excited for that when they're actually chasing something rather than you have to pitch into a bed.
Yeah, for sure. And like, you guys know how I feel about bed fishing. I hate it. Like, I think I'm just going to call a spade here, and I'm going to ruffle some feathers. It's not sporting. Like, you can piss a fish off enough that they're going to bite it. And I tell you one thing, smallmouth are one of my favorite fish on the planet to catch, but they are the dumbest fish on the planet when it comes to spawning. You could throw a Ned rig in a smallmouth's bed and they will eat it, and you could turn it back loose on that same bed, and 5 minutes later you can throw that same Ned rig into that same bed, and that same fish is going to eat that same Ned rig, and you're going to catch him. It's just like it's crazy. I don't enjoy bed fishing, so I try to stay away from it. Man, I know nothing about Dewey, but I will tell you, this past weekend, all weekend, Grayson and Dewey, it was a very bad day to be a freaking jackal chunk crawl. I caught 3 keepers and one that was 14 3/4 inches at Dewey the other day on a jackal chunk crawl, 3/16 ounce. Matter of fact, I'll just show you the rig here. I have a picture of it because I'm using it as my let me pull it up here really quick. Using it as my thumbnail for this video. that I'm going to be releasing tomorrow. So let's maybe.
Will you still throw it on that Adrena?
Yep, 172 heavy poison adrena.
Yeah, those are such nice rods.
By the way, JR, I potentially may be going to check out a bait shop on Thursday. I'll talk to you more about it when we get off here, but I can't. I guess. Let me do this. I'll just open it up in Photoshop here so you guys can see it. And let's do this. All right, so you guys are seeing it now. Jackal chunk crawl, 3/16 ounce. You could, dude, look at that tungsten weight. It's just beat all the crap. I should probably have retied this before I took the picture. Big old giant. It's like frayed there on the end, but 4/0 offset shank, Gamakatsu hook here. This is this is watermelon pepper, green pumpkin pepper, watermelon pepper. You cannot go wrong with either of those collars. As JR mentioned, this is a 172 heavy poison adrena, Corrado 150. I got to do some re-rigging of rods, and I may have some reels for sale soon. I have a lot of like 6 gear ratio reels like this. I have this thing rigged up on this reel, which is a 6:2 to 1 gear ratio. And that is not the most idealistic situation. Doesn't matter if you set the hook, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get them in. But I am a statistics person when it comes to the more casts you can make every day, the more chance you're giving yourself to catch fish. And if you have to make 3 reel cranks to bring in the same amount of line that an 8 gear ratio does with a 6 gear ratio, then you're wasting time retrieving your bait on that. Is that a bad thing? Probably not, but in a tournament situation, it could allow me to catch a couple fish. But this rod and reel combo right here, I'm telling you what, absolutely phenomenal. Love it. I contacted Shimano about this delamination here on this rod, and they told me that was normal the more you use it, because this is impregnated with some kind of like resin that keeps it like all together. And they say the more you flex it, it will happen. They made a comment that seeing it down that far in the rod blank means that I'm catching big fish.
Oh, so they're trying to flatter you.
They didn't say anything like that. I made that up totally.
What made you go to the 3/16? I know that's kind of been one of the newer things for you. I know in the past, I think me and you used to always fish a 1/4 ounce weight. And then I think 3/16, the first time I remember you doing it was probably, last fall or so.
So
I mean, I know natural fall is better, but
Yeah, so I don't know, man. Like, I believe. So, kind of to answer your question, the reason I went with that is that I believe that I catch more of my fish, or I get bit more often than not on the fall. So if I'm fishing, and now with live scope and stuff, you might catch me out in 40 foot of water. Like, I don't care to do that. Yeah, we didn't make day 2 either, man. You saw the video, but so if I'm fishing shallow water, let's say I'm fishing less than 10 foot, a 1/4 ounce or 5/8 or whatever, bigger weights. When I throw that thing in there, it's straight to the bottom, right? So when the crawl is on the bottom, most of the action of that bait has already been wasted. Like the chunk crawl, man, when it falls, the pinchers are crazy. I mean, they almost look like a twin tail grub rocking down. So can do whatever. So I went to a smaller weight thinking that I was giving myself a little bit more fall time, and it seemed to have worked. Dude, Jeff, obviously I'm in. I will be down there this Sunday. If you're going to be working for Mother's Day, I'm going to take my mom down. We always go pick her up on my Harley and take her down there to your place, the river, and eat. So if you're there, I'll talk to you. But yeah, man, I enjoy it. I would appreciate the heck out of that, actually. Even maybe once a month or whatever they can do would be fine. It'd be great. Like it's subtle differences like that one have allowed me to catch more fish looking back. I had Gene Jensen on my show, Fluke Master, which you guys have, I'm sure you've watched some of his videos, but he has become a really, good fishing friend of mine. We talk not often, but we talk, a few times a year. He's always, available to get on the show or whatever. But I told him that I was using 10-pound test as a leader on a spinning rod. And he said, if you go to 8-pound test, he said, I can almost guarantee you're going to catch twice as many fish as you do on 10-pound. I was like, man, I'm using Sunline fishing line. Fluorocarbon is super thin, super clear. He said, I don't care if you're using like a horsehair. He said, that is, if it's totally camouflage, that's one thing. He said, but I can promise you, if you go to an 8-pound leader, you're going to catch more fish. And it has never been more evident. Over the last 2 years, when he's told me that, I fish nothing more. Like sometimes if it's uber clear and I'm tournament fishing, like I'm at Erie or Lake St. Clair or something like that, I've been known to throw a 4-pound leader.
4.
It makes it absolutely brutal. It is absolutely just the craziest thing to try to get a fish in, especially, man. You get out there on that shipping channel and there's water ripping. You try to bring in a 5-pounder on 4-pound test, it's a 15-minute fight sometimes. It's crazy. But the biggest leader that I use is an 8-pound test leader anymore because he gave me that advice. I took his advice because he's been fishing a long time, same as I have, and bingo, that's the way it is. And that's what I'm telling you about the Jack with Chunk Crawl, guys. And if you guys buy some, we're not getting kickback. Obviously, we are supported here by a lot of people always, have asked me in the past, how am I affiliated with Shimano? Well, I'm affiliated through Shimano through the tackle box in South Point, Ohio, which is not in business any longer. We all know that. But how this works is that there's a company called Sportco Marketing, and they are the marketing firm that markets Shimano products in the United States. I had to get hooked up with them, i.e. Drew Sadler and a few other people, and they made me the offer to be basically an ambassador for the program, for their products. So Shimano owns G Loomis. They've owned G Loomis for like 25 years. So those two products come hand to hand. Jackal is actually it's not a subsidiary of Shimano. Shimano is actually just a distributor of their products. Same with Power Pro line. So Jackal baits, they make really good baits. But if you haven't dived in or dug into their soft plastic line, really look at that 3.5-inch Jackal chunk crawl. And like, let's face it, I don't care if you do or not. Matter of fact, I would prefer if you didn't. But go out and buy some, man. I'm telling you, you're gonna love them. Get green pumpkin pepper, or the watermelon pepper, which there's not a huge difference in color. Watermelon pepper is a little more clear, a little less dark green. I've had success on both of them.
/ they suck. Don't get them.
Yeah. No, so my leader doesn't break, man. Like, especially with that 8-pound test, I fight fish just as hard as I did with 10-pound test, with 8-pound test, and I've never broken a fish off. Now, I'm gonna knock on wood here because I'll break off every fish I fish here on the tournaments. The Toyota Series coming up soon. Yeah, man, 8-pound test is where it's at. I wish Sunline had like a 2,500 yard spool of this stuff. First off, it's one of the most expensive lines out there, but I've been fishing Sunline for quite a while. No affiliation, not getting any kickback from that. I don't get any discounts from that either. I'm paying $28 a roll, just like you guys are. but I enjoy it. I fish it a lot. Shimano has a new fluorocarbon called Mastiff. I'm going to buy some of it and try to get my hands on that. Maybe I'll check that out.
I feel like I've been pretty lucky with line. I mean, I use that P line tactical a fair amount, and then I use Sunline, and I use the Gold Label Seaguar. And honestly, I feel like I've had pretty good luck with them. I try to be pretty particular about my knots, and I think that's a big part of it too. And you know,
Yeah,
I
we'll
think
talk. I'll show you some. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Jared. So this, Jeff, you asked where you can get them at. Locally, go to Borders over in Ashland if you're local. I don't know anybody up your way that has that stuff. I'll have to look and see if there is one. But TNT Outdoors and Grayson can order these things for you. I don't know if Brad has some, but they will definitely order them for you. Don't just buy 1 or 2 packs. I'm buying, guys. The last time I bought these, I bought 18 packs of watermelon pepper and 18 packs of green pumpkin pepper because they are that good. I have absolutely caught the biggest bass of my life on these things, pretty much. Other than that 6-8 that I caught this year on that chatterbait, I've caught some giants on this bait. Right now, the one you guys are seeing on the screen, this is watermelon pepper. Here is the green pumpkin pepper. You can tell that there's not much of a difference in color. One's more brown than green. So watermelon pepper is more green. The green pumpkin pepper is more of a brownish green pumpkin that we know. These little pinchers, man, I'm telling you what, they go crazy under the water. One thing that I will tell you, do not leave these things open in your car or in your house. They have a stench to them, man. I don't know what they put on these things, but they have some kind of weird. I mean, I don't know if it's a fish attractant, whatever it is. They should continue doing it because it works. Jacob Wheeler would.
I think he'd catch him no matter where you took him, no matter if he had graphs. I think the dude is just a really good fisherman. I think he would do well anywhere in any situation.
Yeah, we saw that. We had Zach Burge winning one the other day. So to answer your question, Hinkle, yeah, Borders is more than a gun shop. They are not the tackle box. They don't claim to be. You can buy gun safes, guns, ammunition. They have. I mean, it's a fairly stocked store for fishing. Don't expect to go in there and see everything you saw at the tackle box. Same with TNT Outdoors out there in Grayson. They have a fairly decent amount of stuff, but they're not just a tackle shop. They're a gas station, archery shop, etc. But again, Brad is very good about working with you, the customer. If you go in there and say, if you look through there, and first off, there's a lot of stuff stacked in a small amount of space in Borders fishing stuff. So you may have to dig through and find what you're looking for. A lot of times they do have some sort of what you're looking for. But if you talk to Brad there, and you just tell him, hey man, I'm looking for these jackal chunk crawls. Do you have any? And if he says no, he'll say, but I can get you some, or I'll order them some for you. But again, don't just the issue with that is if you order them that way and you order 1 or 2 packs, you're going to be out before you know it because I'm promise you're going to like them. But again, if you don't want to, shop local or whatever, you can always hop on the Tackle Warehouse or places like that. Just search Jackal Chunk Crawl. They have them everywhere.
Yeah, they keep a fair amount of jackal stuff at Borders. It's just I don't think he has the chunk crawl laying around. I mean, they've got their their jerk baits and some of the Shimano new jerk baits and crankbaits, but as far as the soft plastics, I don't think he has much of them yet. But I think it's all about supply and demand. If you go and ask him, he's more likely to keep them.
Right. So like again, guys, I'm not saying this. I'm not trying to be a butthole about it. Either buy them or don't. But I'm gonna promise you, if you buy them, you're gonna like them. And the thing about it is, like I said, when I could, it's weird because certain baits like that, like the Shimano Ember, if I went to a tournament right now on any lake around my area, I can almost guarantee you I would lay money on it if I had never made those videos about the Shimano Ember that I could went fished a tournament all year long this year at Grayson and Yatesville, and I could find nobody that would have those baits. And I think that's why they kind of work so well. I think fish see flat-sided crankbaits. They see those, you're looking at Spro Little Johns. You're looking at all these baits that everybody throws, including myself and JR, but like they get accustomed to these things. They get conditioned to seeing the same baits and the same actions. But if you throw something that they don't see, maybe that's why they work so well.
Yeah, I definitely think that's part of it. The sound, the look, the wobble. How's the your bait coming along? Speaking of the wobble.
Sorry here, I'm having somebody ask me a question on Instagram, but it's going well. I would say well, it's going. I am way farther on it than I was. The biggest thing is I can mass produce the heck out of these things. I can make 10 a day probably if I had the want to do it. But the problem is that the joint in the center of that bait it's like a engineering nightmare. Right here, this joint right here, this split, this thing right here, getting this right is like it's an engineering nightmare. I'm using the wrong hardware for this. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos. There's a guy on there called Marling Baits that makes some really cool stuff, makes his all handmade, and he does some different things that I am not doing that makes it a little easier. But right now I am on version 2.0. I am going to this joint right here I made at a 45-degree angle, similar to this one right here. You have to have a really big gap in your bait like this one does to have any kind of motion with that 45-degree angle. So I lessened that down to a 25.5-degree or 22.5-degree angle. So it's half of that. So it's more flat. So you don't have to have these really long hardware here to get that really free action. The biggest problem that I'm finding right now is that I want to do two single eye hooks in the back of my front of my bait here, and then have them go into the base or the tail of the lure here. Now the problem is you have to drill a hole through the center of this that goes all the way through the center of this mast right here, and it comes out the bottom. Now, if that hole is not perfectly straight up and down or perpendicular to this bait, it causes friction on the eyes of the bait, which causes the bait to no worky.
Yeah, not running right.
So I am on iteration 2 at this point, 22.5-degree angle. I have sawed it in half today using 3D printed helpers that I smash on the bait, and I can cut 22.5 degrees with a handsaw, which is fairly easy, way easier than the way I was doing it. I'm now printing right now, probably still printing in my classroom, something that will smash the whole lure together that's flat on the bottom that I can put in a drill press and drill that hole that goes through right here the first time, every time, and have it reproducible. My goal, it is right now, May 7th. I'm hoping to have some of these things in people's hands by the third week in May. And Tyler, I will hook you up. We'll get going on. So, I'm excited. It's, man, like, I get in these really weird moods. Like, I want to build them. I'm like, yes, I love it. and then I'll build them, and I'll be like crazy, like hyper focused on these things for like, I don't know, a week. And I'll like rock and roll on trying to find all this crap out. And then I get discouraged. I'm like, holy crap, this is not. First off, I'm going to tell you the reason that they're $150 to $200 if they're handmade wooden baits, it's because they're worth every freaking penny of it. Like when I would have looked at them before, I was like 120 bucks. Like, so this is plastic, right? So I think what everybody's doing, including Bull Shad, is they're doing what I'm doing. They're creating a mold or a master. They're carving this thing out of wood. They're then making a mold of this and using resin, some kind of like resin, and they're called microspheres. And they're like casting these things over and over and over and over and over. So you know exactly what they're going to weigh. You know exactly the density of them. You know exactly how much weight to put on each one of them. They all work the same. Simplistic. Like, I don't want to do that stuff. I'm not here to mass produce. If I make 100 of these baits a year, okay. Like, I don't want them to be like, I want it to get to the point where there is a lure around them. Like, there's 100 available a year. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or what could happen is I could go out there and start smashing them on them, and I just never will sell them.
Yeah, they definitely don't have that in their boat.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, you got that new Waller glide bait? No, you don't. Sorry. But yeah, that's coming out soon. I will have 2.0 done this weekend. Don't have a ton going on this weekend. I am stepping out to I'm coming out of retirement in the way of playing music this weekend for the first time since October of 2023. I'm playing at the Iron Elks Lodge from 7:30 to 10:30 on Friday night. So if you are in my area, you want to come out and listen to some mediocre music and drink some cold beer, Iron Elks Lodge is where it will be. Playing some solid gold country music and 90s alternative. Something like Chasing Cars by Dishwalla. That tickles your fancy.
Have you watched these, speaking of going back into the music realm, have you watched any of these Drumeo videos they've had out recently?
I don't know if it's a recent one, but Chad Smith from
they're so cool.
The one of Chad Smith from when he does 30 Seconds to Mars.
Yeah, man. That's just
I don't know how he does it, but I think he plays it better than the original without knowing it.
Yeah. Yeah, the dude's insane. I like all those Drumeo. They had the guy from Sleep Token on there. They've had Slayer's new drummer, or not Slayer's new drummer, but Pantera's new drummer. I mean, it's always solid.
Yep. Well, guys, we're at that 53-minute mark, so we're going to hop off there. Got a few things coming up next week. I don't want to ruin the surprise there, but we do have some things in the works. I'm going to try to get my boat fixed this week. You're going to see 2 videos come out tomorrow. I usually don't do that, but I'm going to do it tomorrow. One of them is going to be a fishing trip to Grayson. Absolutely smoked him this past weekend. You will then see a review video of an Icon, what is it? An LX20, which is their top dog, except a 21-footer. You're not getting a more expensive boat in their lineup, in the bass boat lineup. By the way, they Icon boats, the people that own them is a yacht company. They build yachts up to $6 million. So $120,000 bass boats is probably not their main focus. But anyway, you're going to see those 2 videos coming up soon. And on Wednesday or Thursday, I'm going to be releasing another video about the fishing tournament at Dewey Lake. You can see the 3 absolute hammer of 15.5-inch bass that I caught, landing me a second place finish, Lewis County Lunkers. Yes, man. Like I said, I'll Wednesday. I'm gonna shoot for when. Oh, it is Wednesday. I'm lying to you. I think it's Tuesday, so it's gonna be Thursday-ish when you see that. So tomorrow you'll see 2 videos, Thursday or Friday, which will be before your tournament. So you'll see some video there. Just to give you some idea, man, like, I fished from I don't even know what the ramp's called there. It's right there by the old where the old swimming pool used to be. We took out of there. I went right past the marina up through there, and the very first cove to the left, I caught a fish out of there that was 14 3/4 inches right on the corner. There's a log, but I caught most of my fish down towards the dam. There's you'll see it in the video. There's a big deep bank. Jackal chunk crawl, 3/16 ounce. So I just caught them like that. Just the blue guitar that I finished the other day, man. I have that. It's a 6-string, multi-fret, multi-scale guitar with a. It's way out there. Like, I built a crazy guitar, but just that one. I have a new guitar coming out for suicide awareness that I'm going to donate to charity. I have a guitar case that I'm trying to donate guitars in the case to make $1 million with a guitar case. So that'll be coming out soon. But with that being said, guys, we are on that 55-minute mark. So we've actually went over 10 minutes. But with that being said, if you guys can, first off, make sure you come and join us next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Go out there and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not. I would appreciate it more than you ever know. And we'll see you next time on another line. Look at JR over there throwing up the fireworks.